Canadian public health officials keep emphasizing the coronavirus risk is low, but many people are wondering how they will be affected if that changes, especially when it comes to work and losing income. Hena Singh is here with us, joins me now in studio. She is an employment lawyer in Toronto. Now, there's some countries like Japan are encouraging people to work from home. At what point, should Canadians consider working at home, and should employers encourage their employees to work at home?
So I think in this circumstance, now is a good time for employers to start evaluating whether they can have staff that work from home. In those circumstances, the less people that are in the workplace, the less likely for coronavirus to spread if you haven't been able to detect it. So to have people stay at home now is a great way to try and protect the workplace in advance. But also, if things start to spread and people are actually being asked to self-isolate, it's really important that employers do their best to accommodate them, to allow them to stay at home and continue to work.
And have backup plans so the company keeps functioning, right?
Absolutely.
So not everybody can work at home, though.
Yes.
What about in those cases?
These are the trickier cases because there's three things that you can do to supplement income. Employers have no obligation to pay employees if they're not able to work. And so the first thing is, can we accommodate them to work from home? And if we can't, say someone's a laborer, or someone's a cleaner, or someone's a server.
Working in a restaurant, all those types of things.
Then you can't work from home. And in those circumstances, employers don't have an obligation to pay employees if they're not able to work. But then what are the repercussions of that? Employees may come into work when they're sick and say, I need
their
the money.
Paycheck, yeah.
I need the money. So this is a good time for employers to be reviewing their sick leave policies and to say, what are the repercussions if we don't have these policies in place now? So we have someone that comes in sick, we get more people sick in our workplace. Now we have a reputation issue, now we have a short staffing issue, we have a lot more people at home, a lot more people coming into work sick because we don't have this policy. But if you can't implement that policy or have some sort of coverage, then there are other creative ways that employers can accommodate employees. Give them vacation time, allow them to receive pay, and then work back the hours over the course of, say, 6 months. So it's like small trickle.
That's interesting. Yeah, so they would get the 2 weeks off. They would get paid for that so they can still get their groceries, pay their bills, but then pay it off over a longer period of time.
Say 5 hours a week or a couple hours a week over the course of several months. So the pain isn't there in terms of working excessive hours, but the pain isn't there from losing a big chunk of money over the course of a couple of weeks.
How much should the government be involved in this as well, in helping employees, employers? We know Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is making an announcement tomorrow morning to talk about some of this. What do you expect to hear?
I think that there's a joint obligation between employers, employees, and the government. And I think that the government should step in. Currently, we have an EI program where employees can be covered for 15 weeks if they are sick. But there is a 1 week waiting period. So when you have a 2 week self-isolation period, then 1 week's completely unpaid and it kicks in at 55% to a maximum of about $500.
So at this point, the government has decreased the wait time from 2 weeks to 1 week. But it was interesting, the Labour Minister, Philomena Tasti, was asked today, should it be zero?
And I think in these circumstances, that is the best solution from the government and the best way that they can contribute in this circumstance to try and minimize people going into work when they're sick.
So people won't feel like, oh, I'm sick, but I need that paycheck.
I need the paycheck.
So what else do you think the government can do to help out in this scenario? Because it's really complicated.
There's a couple of other ways that they can do this, because right now there is they pay out for sick leave 55% to a maximum of $500. But the tricky part is that if employees were to make money during that time period, then that money could be clawed back. So to allow employers to top that up would be another option, or allow employees to work part-time if they can be accommodated from home for a certain number of hours, and then top up through government funding. There's a number of different ways that they can do this.
Now, I have heard from some employers that they're concerned that employees will use this and not really need it and stay at home.
The risk on the other end of that is far greater.
Right.
So if you're so worried about the abuse such that you don't end up implementing a sick leave policy, then on the other end of that, employees who have the coronavirus show up to work and then infect the rest of the workplace. And I would say that that risk is so much higher than the risk of people staying at home if you can accommodate them, allowing them to work from home or allowing them to stay away without pay or the various other options that we talked about in terms of vacation time or earning back the time.
What about a piece of advice for employees? Is there anything else that you would give for advice to employees or employers?
I would say communication here is key.
Yes.
It is really key. And I think for employers, I think saying, here's what happens if you call in and you say I'm sick or I've been told to self-isolate, and here let the employees know exactly what will happen, and for employees to communicate with their employers. I think that the communication between them is the most key right now.
So sending out emails by the employer, whatever it is, to communicate with them, let them know how things are being handled, so if the employees have any questions, they can come back.
Absolutely. Open that door for discussion.
Hena Singh, I want to thank you for breaking this all down. It's a really important conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hena Singh is an employment lawyer in Toronto.